Prepare for IELTS Speaking Test Part 1 Tips and Strategies. Introduction. In a previous lesson about the IELTS speaking test structure and marking, we were introduced to the IELTS speaking test, its overall structure and marking scheme utilizing band descriptors. In this video, and in subsequent ones to follow, we shall take a closer examination into each of the three parts of the speaking test, providing examples and strategies that you can use to prepare your responses, defining and explaining relevant terms as we go. In this lesson, we will be focusing on Part 1 of the IELTS speaking test. Refer to the links below for more information. IELTS speaking test Part 1. The entire speaking test should last not more than 12 to 15 minutes at most. Part 1 of the speaking test, which will only last between 3 to 5 minutes, serves two main purposes: to allow the examiner to validate the identity of the candidate, to allow the candidate to get warmed up for the main part of the test, which is Part 2, also known as the long turn. Topics. Part 1 questions are limited to a narrow range of familiar topics. These include your daily routine, your work or study, your friends and family, your means of travel, weather, sports and hobbies. Tips. Here are a few tips for your performance. Stay calm. Pay attention to posture. Make eye contact with the examiner to show you are attentive. Speak slowly and clearly. Try to control the tendency to say nah. Take a moment to think the question over before giving an answer. If you are unsure of the examiner's question, either because you didn't hear it or you didn't understand it, you are permitted to ask him/her to repeat the question. You can also try and repeat the question as a means of confirming. This can sometimes allow you extra time to consider and plan your responses. The importance of telling a story. Most importantly, when responding, you mustn't respond with a single word answer. Try to think about the examiner's perspective. If your responses leave unanswered questions in the examiner's mind, and they must struggle to understand your meaning, they are likely to deduct your score. Make your answers more interesting by taking on the role of a storyteller. Include rich and even unusual details. Try to be creative and try to be thorough. Finally, note that Part 1 of the speaking test does not last very long, and the bulk of the grading takes place during Parts 2 and 3 of the test. Thus, do not worry too much about your Part 1 responses. Answer the questions in a natural way. In other words, don't give any long and formal speeches during this part of the interview. Confidence, body language and voice tonality. Approaching the interview with a sense of confidence, friendliness and sincerity will go a long way to win over the examiner and improve your score. The Prepare for IELTS course contains video examples from real-world speaking tests. Go and watch these videos and try to analyze them from the perspective of the examiner, using the marking criteria we discussed earlier. Some of the speakers earned a high score whereas others did not earn a passing score. Can you identify which speakers did best? If so, why? Types of questions. Before looking at some examples of common Part 1 speaking test questions, let's pause and consider what kinds of questions get asked during interviews. Factual questions. The interviewer may ask you to divulge some personal information about yourself and your life. Examples include: what do you do at work or school? Where do you live? How do you travel? Convergent questions. Convergent questions, or close-ended questions, are questions that demand either a yes or no answer, or some other kind of either or answer. Examples include: do you drive a car? Do you prefer to do your work in the mornings or later on in the day? Remember, when answering a close-ended question, that you will be required to expand on your answer, typically by answering why or why not. Divergent questions. Divergent questions, or open-ended questions, are questions that invoke a range of possible answers, and they call on the respondent to think of a past experience or an imaginary one. Examples may include: describe a place that you like to visit the most. What kind of weather do you like best? Evaluative questions. These are questions that require the analysis and synthesis of information, and then a presentation with justification. In other words, express your opinion on a popular issue and explain your reasons. Examples may include, how important is it for children to be active? Why do people feel a need to have a hobby? Provocative questions. Provocative questions are questions that probe the respondent's underlying beliefs, and they can potentially challenge preconceptions or biases. Example: if you could change something about your daily routine, what would it be? Why do you dislike receiving advertisements? Example: take a moment to look over this example of a typical list of examiner questions from a Part 1 section of the speaking test. Pause the video in the next slide to read the information carefully. When reading the questions, what kinds of generalizations can we make about the kinds of questions that are asked? What can we notice? Consider, how many questions are asked? How many topics are there and what are they? How many questions on average are asked for each of the topics? Which questions ask for personal information? Which questions ask about preferences, likes and dislikes? Which questions ask for an opinion or speculation on a particular issue? Which questions are yes/no questions? How many questions are asked? How many topics are there and what are they? On average, how many questions are asked per topic? Which questions ask for personal information? Which questions ask about preferences, likes and dislikes? Which questions ask for opinions or speculation on an issue? Which questions are yes/no questions? Summary: in this lesson, we hope to have prepared you for the IELTS Speaking Test Part 1 by breaking down the types of questions that would be asked by an examiner, then offering strategies for your response. In summary, they are as follows. Factual questions. These are questions that ask for specific information or details. For example, what is your favorite color? What kind of music do you like? Convergent questions. These are questions that have a specific answer or a limited set of answers. For example, do you prefer traveling by plane or by train? Do you still keep in touch with your college classmates? Divergent questions. These are questions that have many possible answers or solutions and encourage creative thinking. For example, what do you usually do in your free time? What are some of your favorite kinds of foods? Evaluative questions. These are questions that ask for an opinion or judgment about something. For example, how do you feel about your hometown? What is your opinion of social media? Provocative questions. These are questions that challenge assumptions or beliefs and encourage deep thinking and reflection. For example, what are the benefits and drawbacks of living in a big city? What do you think is the most important quality for a good leader? Practice assignment. Can you think of your own examples? As an extra practice assignment, try and come up with 3-5 questions of your own belonging to each question category we've given here. Then, find a friend that you can practice asking and answering these questions with. Thanks for watching. Hopefully by watching this lesson you have learned how you can effectively prepare for the IELTS speaking test and improve your communication skills overall. If you enjoyed this video, remember to follow this channel for regularly posted content. Check out the many other IELTS and academic English skills lessons and courses offered. Leave me a question or comment or just hit the like button to support my efforts. To gain exclusive VIP access to downloadable exercises or to arrange a personal consultation, write to me, or go to www.practicalenglishwithdarcy.blogspot.com for more.